So for today, yeah, any additional topics that you guys might have? Old business, recap Connectathon, looking over the review sheet, and then dev days. So start off with any additional topics from folks. Nikolai?
Yeah, maybe one topic. So we're working on the view definition builder, and for now it works with a debug API of 8box to dynamically evaluate views. So when people writing view, they want to run it and test it. So the question is, are guys like, I don't know, puzzling and others interested in like work with this view definition builder? So then we should discuss and standardize maybe just temporary this debug API, so people can call it in a loop while they're playing. But that's probably a topic which could be discussed in Zulip, so we will start the thread.
Yep, that sounds good. Any comments on that before we move forward? It's exciting. All right, any other topics that we might want to take on?
I'd be interested to know if there's any prior thoughts on how you guys envision hooking up view definitions to the export API, if you've thought how that would look.
Right. You mean the bulk fire?
Bulk,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, let's see here. Was that a Zulip thread?
There's a milestone on the GitHub release. I think I mentioned it on Zulip as well. I'll ping the milestone to chat here so people have it handy. Yeah, I had added one, and I see a handful of others have added in there probably during the Connectathon, but I'll just paste in a link here. Yeah, so I mean, everything there seems reasonable, but it could be worth taking a quick look at, and actually it may be more than anything just sort of mentioning the existence of this milestone tag. And so and it would be nice to use this as our single point of reference for what needs to happen prior to the release. So if there's stuff that we need to do that's missing from this, please add it. And if there's items on this list that are concerning to folks, then let's talk them through. I don't have any major concerns with anything I see on here, but yeah, it's kind of raise visibility to this sort of thing.
That's a good one, certainly for release preparation, because I think you might have mentioned it, but I probably forgot about it. So yeah, that's something that we can advertise, not just in the chat, like in the channel a little bit more, and just get people to be aware of it, taking a look at it. So that sounds great. Thanks, Brian. All right. Next up, old business and to-dos. I'm trying to go back because it's been a busy couple of weeks to, let's see, where are we here? So last time we met, we talked about the review sheet, talked about cleaning up the issues and PRs, but I think your milestone blocker is probably a better way to organize that than just sort of looking at all of them in general. I've been a little behind on reviewing some of the sessions that we had, particularly the Parquet session. We had some thoughts about looking at Parquet. That's something that we're doing pretty actively at NCQA. So I don't know if Tim might want to discuss some of that. So John, you did have some homework on thinking about, what a lossless transformation might look like. I don't know if you've got a chance to take a look at that.
It's in progress. Yeah, but I think, the ideas from the group have inspired us to really investigate that. A lot more optimistic about that, but that will be a post dev days activity, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Let's schedule that, or get you guys together being in person. I think that'll be excellent. Just looking over through the old business. So I don't think we have anything specific old business wise other than that, unless somebody can think of something. So we can move on to Connectathon recap. So we had a bunch of folks there at the Connectathon. What'd you think? I think so we had a session, obviously, a bunch of conversations broadly with folks interested in this project, and then we had a session on Sunday afternoon with Graham was there, I was there, Brian Caney was there. So I'll shut up and get other people's thoughts.
Yeah, but I think it was good. So a lot of people coming and asking questions about SQL and FHIR. So there's a lot of interest and expectations. So let's meet these expectations. Yeah, really, there are a lot of people talking about SQL and FHIR. And I, me personally, was contacted by, I don't know, like maybe 10 different guys from different groups. So interested what's going on, how it will work.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we got to spend it, broader FHIR community who are not in this meeting regularly were just not really aware. I mean, they're busy with other things. So, I think that marketing aspect is going to be important. Dev Days will be a great place for that. I know Firely was posting on LinkedIn, so trying to drum up some interest. So if we can, whatever we can do in this group to get more interest and get more folks from outside this group to be aware and excited about it would be great. I don't have great notes from that session, but obviously Nikolai, you were there. I thought the I thought Graham's, we didn't, and sorry, we couldn't record it. Like it would have not worked given the space of the room. So I do apologize for that. Obviously, I think Dev Days is all recorded. But, there were some interesting, I think, approaches. Graham talked through some of his use cases, how he was been thinking about it. Good questions from the FHIR folks who are definitely interested in it, even implementing versions of it within their stack. Just trying to think through anybody else. Question. Yeah, go ahead.
It was mostly introductory. So yeah, we did an introduction. Graham told about the same scenario he told at our meetings, so that he envisioned that FHIR servers may use view definitions to like kind of denormalize the views which are needed by applications, because he sees that a lot of the application needs some dashboards and grids and all this stuff, and it's hard to build from FHIR Search API. But for that needs, for FHIR server, Graham want like almost unlimited FHIR pass stuff with the resolve and all this stuff. So and we discussed that probably gonna be like advanced mode for SQL on FHIR, not required, but like optional advanced mode when you can use resolve and other stuff. So that's what we could discuss. Yeah, are we gonna like layer specification? But I think Graham will remind us that he won the full FHIR pass for SQL, and I hope we will fight until the end, like on a subset, and make like advanced extension for So that's essentially everything we discussed.
Yeah, I think I'm remembering there were some questions raised about, how the standardization process would go as well. I don't think anything has necessarily changed, but the group members and, folks who are interested in it, standardization still has a cost to bear, which I think we will bear that cost eventually. But for right now, I don't necessarily see a change in our approach, but, moving forward.
Yeah. I forgot about important stuff. So Graham did the presentation. He started using view definition runner in IG Publisher to do some like internal analytics for IG, like what number of code systems, number of codes, and all this stuff. So now it's already in the code base of IG Publisher. So and he used it for a few IGs. I know he used it for international patient summary to help the people like bring different profiles from different countries and compare them. So, and there's a chance that maybe, I don't know, in FHIR R6 will contain a view definition resource, so we don't have to publish Hawaii.
Yeah, that was mentioned. That was floated. That view definition just becomes a resource in FHIR R6.
Yeah. Don't ask in the all code in a happy.
Yeah, I think there are, and this was expressed during the meeting that that's probably not like that might be too much, like too far into the future to say like, oh, this is just R6. So there's probably a more, and I have no idea when that might happen. So I think there's a more incremental approach before that, where it's like a DSTU status, and that actually is also helpful for us because that would get more eyes on it, more folks with with different use cases. So kind of like jumping the line to like all the way to R6. I know that there's various statuses in resources of R6, but it seems like that's almost too much. But it shows you the interest and drive behind it from some folks in the FHIR community. So
maybe some details. So when the IG is published, he generate using SQL on FHIR SQLite tables database with all this content and publish it as a part of IG. Everybody can connect through by using SQLite client and then the data through SQL. Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I had a bit of a chat to Ruben about like possible pathways to this, and he said that one thing that we could do to further socialize it that sort of gets it in front of a broader group of people, but doesn't necessarily require us to enter the sort of working group process or anything like that, is to just do a ballot for comment. So once we get past like this version 2 milestone, we could sort of like publish that snapshot and sort of get that out there and sort of elicit feedback from that wider group of people who do participate in that standards process. And that doesn't necessarily mean we have to enter the standards process. It's just sort of getting it in front of that wider group of people and collecting a bunch more feedback that we might not have otherwise got from just this group.
Yeah, if I could comment on that. We did as a discussion item, and we actually got some pushback on that from FHIR management group folks, I think raised it, saying that they're, and I'm just relaying what Josh said, they get in some sense too many folks, putting things in for a ballot for comment right now or in general. And so they're trying to somewhat dissuade folks from using that mechanism, particularly given that we expect this to be an official standard. So I see what you're saying, but that's what some FMG folks were saying to us.
No worries. Happy to take the advice of the people that know. But yeah, as you say, it's really the goal is just to keep on sort of getting it out there in front of as many people as possible, and also starting to drive it through some use cases. So the two things that we're sort of working on at the moment, we've got a project to sort of potentially be able to have a crack at an OMOP transformation. And the other thing is Mimic 4 on FHIR. So we're kind of using that as a vehicle to potentially try out SQL on FHIR and some of these Parquet ideas, because it's quite a large data set as well, which brings out some other potential issues. So
yeah, very cool. I remember you mentioned Mimic 4 in the past, John. Can you just, for the group, explain what it is?
So Mimic 4 is a kind of a large de-identified sort of coherent data set that's sort of semi-public. You've got to apply for it and all that sort of stuff. But a group of people led by Hospital for Sick Kids in Toronto created a FHIR IG and did a FHIR transformation of that data set. And there was sort of the full set's quite large. It's like 500 million FHIR resources. And we tried to drive that through Pathling, and there was some problems with it in terms of validation, and the actual implementation of the process they used to transform it is not very scalable. So we've sort of trying to re-implement that transformation process and build validation into it so that we can get a valid final FHIR product, I suppose. And I think that's a good opportunity to sort of test drive some of these concepts and the related technologies. So yeah, that's just one of the things we're working on.
Interesting. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So just an additional question, when you apply to access the Mimic 4 data set, I'm sure and it has, I imagine it's, a realistic set of data, or it's de-identified. So I mean, it's a real patient data. And then
sort of an inpatient and even things like imaging and other related data sets. And it's all on this website called PhysioNet. And yes, there's a source sort of original Mimic 4, and then there's also a Mimic 4 on FHIR. And there's a Mimic 4 on FHIR sort of demo data set, which is much smaller and more manageable if you just want to play around with it. And in fact, I don't think you have to do the course at all to get access to that. And then there's the full thing. But like I said, we're still ironing out the kinks in that one. But yeah, really awesome data set, and I'm really keen to get it all valid so that we can start playing around with it and using it to demonstrate things.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. It's always great, hear about the availability of these kinds of data sets, super useful broadly for all of us who are working on these kinds of data pipelines, and specifically, from the source data and then the transformation, having like everyone is sick of using the Cynthia COVID set. So, getting some real world data would be great. So thanks for that. I think that would be interesting. Definitely keep us and the group in the loop on how it's going. All right. Anything else from the Connectathon? Any other thoughts, Nikolai?
Yeah, maybe some related stuff. So we had a breakout session about terminology, discussed the concept resource. That's funny that like a few years ago Graham proposed concept resource, but it was like decided by the working group that they don't want to handle these scenarios. At that time, that's happened again. So on the working group meetings, yeah, the concept resource was proposed by guys decided, okay, they scared the breaking changes and all this stuff because FHIR terminology is normative. But we decided to start like community project which will transform at least popular terminologies into FHIR-like format, maybe using logical model for concept resource. And I think that may work quite well with a SQL on FHIR as well. It's not directly related, but so we're gonna contribute our code to open source, which transform like lowing stuff at Eric's norm. But yeah, I just inviting everybody to join if you care about terminology. Just piece of scripts which will transform popular terminologies into FHIR-like representation. I think mostly it's going to be like ND.json file with a concept resources, logical models. Yeah. And for some closed terminologies like CPT, we will probably just publish instead of content. But for the others, so if we're able, we will probably publish the results and the diff files. So it's going to be much easier. It should be much easier to like synchronize and load terminologies.
Interesting. Yeah, that's great. How can folks keep track of that, or where's that work being
Yeah,
tracked?
so we just created the stream in Zulip. It's empty, but we're just getting people together. So yeah, I will post the stream to the chat, attached to the YouTube video after.
Okay, great. Sounds good. All right, now on to milestone 1, review sheet. Let's take a look. My guess is it's going to be maybe it is in the same place as before. I also take responsibility for that. So how do people feel about the review sheet? So I don't think we talked about it directly. I'll post it in the channel.
I think it's on my list definitely to go through and do another editorial thing. And that's in addition to the issues that are in the milestone, I think. So I think we need to do both. We need to look at the issues in GitHub, and we also need to do another sort of editorial pass at it. But I'm not going to have time to do that this side of Dev Days, fortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair that in the review that everyone doesn't necessarily need to get to all of them, but at least it sets a framework for folks, kind of a vessel for people to fill in. I'm in the same boat, really trying as hard as I can to get to some of the editorial stuff. But just structurally, do people feel that it's at least a good starting place for the organization? All right, sounds good. Right, so we have, I think those are 2 artifacts, the review sheet, and then the tag in GitHub. That feels reasonable to me from a administrative perspective. Anything else we should be thinking about?
Yeah, I'm quite close to publish like functional model. So I published the Google Doc, and guys review it, and I work it a lot on illustrations while I did presentation. So I'm just gonna join the text and samples. So it's gonna be quite nice, a functional model walkthrough.
Well, I think it's pretty valuable for implementers. I know that some of the implementers who I've spoken to, really appreciate the functional model view. It gives a better lens a different lens to the spec itself, even if you're not an implementer. I was talking with a friend of mine this weekend for functions. You can read the reference implementation or other implementations of it, understand how they approach these 4 functions, and then voila, you can have a implementation in your language. So I think Alex also used our implementation as well. So I'm pretty keen on getting that in the spec, unless anybody objects.
Yeah, I agree. It's really helpful for implementing stuff.
Okay, terrific. All right. So from a milestone 1 perspective, I think we'll go with those 2 artifacts to organize ourselves. I'll promote them in the channel, and FHIR is definitely a board where they're at Dev Day at the Connectathon, and they're very excited about this track. So let's talk about that. Firstly, who all is going to Dev Days? Just make sure I know everyone. I know John, you're going. Nikolai, you're going. Ryan, are you going?
Yes, yep. I'll
share. Okay, great. I think we'll have. I don't know if Dan or
I think is going.
Carl.
Sure about Dan. Yeah.
Yeah, Dan has
Yeah.
it's a new baby, so it's a little hard to do back to back. But Josh
Great.
should be there. There's a pretty big team from NCQA that's going. Like I said, I think most of the folks on the engineering side, myself, and some other folks, product folks. So that sounds good.
We should probably organize like SQL on FHIR dinner. Yeah.
We could do that. Yeah, we could have a summit number 2, right? Like the sequel, in case you missed it, summit. So we could do something like that. I haven't actually looked at the topics that we suggested a couple of months ago, but I think we have tried. Let me see if I can pull them up, because we had a couple of sessions. Bashir, do you have a question?
Yeah, so while you are pulling that out, I think there is one session where it was supposed to be a kind of like a implementation showcase at the end or something like that. I was just wondering, how are we going to coordinate that, and how is that session going to be, basically?
Yeah, let me pull it. Great. Okay. Confirmation, 2 tutorials and 1 let's build session. It's very small here. Let's see. Okay, so we had a walkthrough SQL on FHIR. In case you don't remember, Brian, you were on deck. for that one.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so actually, so maybe really quick, I mean, in terms of breaking down and comparing content, I'm basically going to take the content that exists on the spec page and turn that into a presentation and kind of go through the stuff that's there. So yeah, the rationale there. So if it's on, so yeah, I'm going to drive my content entirely off of that. And as folks, I know there's, for the other sessions, I'll reference them. It's like, hey, learn more about the these implementations, go to this session or that. But I just want to stick with the content of the spec itself and some of the rationale behind it. Hopefully that doesn't step on the toes of other sessions.
Yeah, for sure. I'll go through all the sessions we have covered right now. The next one is me as the MC. It's use cases and implementation showcase, which is the one you were referring to. So expected use cases and roundtable style showcase of implementations of the spec and related topics, such as SQL query generation. Remembering what we said. So I'll be the MC for that one. But to Bashir's point, like that's, it's really about that roundtable showcase, which we did, in January, but let's do another version of that. I think that's interesting. So what I'll do is like maybe make like a sign up sheet or something for that to see who would like to present their implementations. I think we could probably, they're only 45 minutes long, so it's not a ton of time. Yeah, it's only 45 minutes. These are pretty brief, but so maybe like 10 minutes for 3, something like that. Maybe we'll select 3 of them. Whoever wants to sort of volunteer, I think. Bashir?
Yeah, I think, it would be a good idea to have, each person have a few slides in a shared slide deck, such that, we don't need to switch. And
Yeah.
maybe because it's like the whole thing is like 45 minutes, I think it's probably there is not much time like to do demos or anything. So we should just quickly talk about, how we have implemented it and what features we have covered and things like that.
Yeah.
And if we can spend some time at the end I think there would be a lot of questions as well, I am guessing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think we might be able to do one on Alex's implementation for NCQA. That would be pretty cool. I'm going to pencil NCQA in for one, and we can do possibly one more. I think that the key is maybe like a diversity of use cases here, right? So if there's another one, or we could do 8box, right? As well.
Yeah, we can show what we did.
Yeah, I think that would cover
that link too. If John is there, maybe we can cover all 4. If it's just each of us is like 7-8 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. How much do you want to talk yourself, Arjun, at the beginning?
Very little. I talk way too much already. So just like, here's some use cases. Maybe I shouldn't even go into them, right? Like it should be, the use cases, I think just for you guys. So like 2-minute intro for me, right? Let's hand it over to you guys. And then, yeah, if we did those 4, to think about it, that sounds like a great session. And then each one of you maybe have, I'm just thinking structurally, like, title slide, our use case, right? Like what the use case that we are.
Yeah, I like the idea of use cases. Yeah, for example, we can talk about like FHIR server plus SQL on FHIR, how it may work for like building applications. Guys may talk about ETL stuff.
Yeah, and then Bashir can talk about like, your idea of abstracting away the EDW, something like that. It's like you have a particular use case that's primary to you. We have some use cases that are, top of mind for us. So I like that. And then you say, well, problem statement, this is the use case, maybe this is like the implementation diagram, system architecture, because some of them are going to be a little bit different. And then, solution, how we used it, something like that. Does that sound nice, short and sweet?
Yeah. I like the idea of focusing on use cases. Yeah. It's a great way of differentiating different implementations, I guess.
Great. And just write that down so I can into the session number 2. And then the third one is let's build with FHIR. And that was for you, Nikolai, right? You're going to do a builder session, practical hands-on with the reference engine. Let me read the description we wrote here. A practical hands-on building session with JS reference engine, write SQL and FHIR view definition to a tabularized FHIR data, display it on the web, and connect a BI dashboard. 45 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to tell people like talk about functional model, then jump to JavaScript implementation, show that it's quite simple to implement like in memory SQL on FHIR if you have FHIR pass. Yes, and then maybe give the people to play with our playground in JavaScript, write a couple of view definitions.
Yep, great. All right, sounds good. Sounds like we have a plan for Dev Days. Just sketch of one. Any other outstanding items for dev days.
I guess we briefly touched on it. I guess we should try to organize a session among us for parquet discussion. If most of us are there, then I think it's a good idea. It's much easier to discuss when there is a whiteboard or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Usually it is possible. Yeah, we can try to request the room. So.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure how it works, but I'm happy to reach out to Ward and say, we'd like to have a session.
On the previous Dev Day session, we did like a couple of informal sessions, which were organized right in a place. So
yeah, we've always been able to. Yeah, we'll find a place to hang out. So yeah, I think that'll
cool. We got that.
I guess the question is, do we want to make it a little bit more formal in the sense that we say at this day, because I mean, people also have like a schedule that they want to attend talks. So if we can upfront say that, I don't know, Tuesday at this time we will be in this room, then people can plan.
Yeah, do we have any usually a lot of times these tutorials are connected with like hands-on, like let's build, and which can include like the people gathering around a table in a common area and actually building it. I mean that sort of forum might be good for this sort of thing as well. So yeah, and I'm not sure how much we have scheduled there, but a lot of times there's like just already time reserved after these talks for people to get together for that sort of thing.
Yeah, I guess, for example, to your point, after Nikolai's Let's Build session, maybe we can continue using the room because it's lunch after. So, I mean, probably nobody is using the room for 1 hour and a half.
But we still can talk to organizers, yes. So maybe we can book this room for lunch, bring lunch and discuss.
Yeah, I'm happy to reach out to Ward and just say, heads up, this is our thought. Does this work for you guys? Can we do something else? Just so we have, this is what we did last weekend was, we said Sunday at 3 p.m., come there. So just we can tell people. So I'll take care of that. I'll talk to Ward about it.
Is everybody coming to the first day of Dev Days? Because I see it is mostly tutorials. So let's decide when everybody coming, because maybe the first day could be the good day, because maybe I'm wrong, but they're mostly tutorials, not the talks. So, and we definitely can find a place and just organize this meeting in the first day.
Like the 10th?
Yeah.
I haven't actually.
Because now it is gonna like 4 days, yeah. So the first day for tutorials and 3 days for conference. So that was, maybe I'm wrong, but that's what I see from schedule. If everybody coming at the first day at 10, so we can organize meeting at the first day during tutorials.
Okay, I mean, I can ask the group, just ask you what your schedules are. And can post them in Zulip so that we'll know. We'll make sure that all the relevant folks are available.
We want to visit SQL.
Those letters are not to be spoken in this group. All right. So yeah, I'll be in touch. I'll write up these notes and get them out.
Thank you, guys.
Good to see all of you.
All right.
All right. Bye.
Thanks, everybody.